Welcome to the Sales Acceleration Show. We've been talking about scaling sales, going faster with marketing, collecting leads, and really growing your business. But today we'll do something else. I've invited Mark. What we're going to discuss today is selling your business. So, Mark, our viewers don't know you. Maybe a short introduction, what you do.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm CEO and founder of Boss Equity. We're a mergers and acquisitions company. So we work with companies in the software tech sector specifically, and we work with them to increase the equity value. Our marketing strapline is unlocking greater equity value, and it's about creating that journey to your final exit.
And how long have you been doing it?
Years and years and years. I actually did it. I started it when I was quite young, actually. For mergers and acquisitions, I was in my mid-20s. So then I had some time away from mergers and acquisitions. I was involved in the software tech sector. I've been shareholder and managing director within a few businesses. So had some experience on both sides, which I think actually really helps.
Yeah, perfect. So when should you start thinking about selling your company? Is it like really in the beginning, or where most people
right now.
At the end? Right now.
Right
so
now.
I'm a startup. That might be too early. I'm a scale-up.
No. I think there's a great benefit in thinking about that exit right at the start, because it gives you, first of all, it gives you a different perspective. It starts to enable you to have the right mindset, which is to say, this business isn't you. That's one thing. There needs to be that separation. You need to view it as an entity in itself.
And is it like the whole state of mind where you should think about the end and work towards that, or no, you should?
Yeah, I think you can. You right at the start. I mean, remember your end and your exit strategy, which doesn't need to be complex, but I think it needs to help give you direction. You need to know what that is, but it doesn't have to be set in stone.
Because most companies I meet, most scale-ups, startups, all the companies, they're always busy with investment.
Yes.
This is the end goal. Investment, of course, investors want to sell at a certain stage, so you have the end goal in mind, but most CEOs I meet is just growth. So still, you're telling them, focus on the exit.
Yes, yeah, and the investment may be a stepping stone to that end goal.
Yeah.
It could be that the investors come in and they're buying you out as a shareholder completely, but it could be merely a stepping stone for you to get to another level of growth.
Yeah.
You need to be careful on that step. You need to have that planned.
So how long does it take to sell a company? You can imagine it going. I mean, what?
That's a complex question. That really is. You like to throw those at me and give me the answer.
Disclaimer now.
Yes. Give me an answer in 30 seconds.
No.
Well,
in average, let's answer in averages.
If you're looking at an organisation which is what I would say is the more traditional approach with M&A, where they will come to a company like us, a sort of more traditional company, and say, our shareholders, our owners have made the decision to sell, then you can look at anywhere between, the very shortest 6 months.
That's
really short.
Right.
18 months. So we're going to sell and we're going to start that process immediately. However, and there's a big however, what we say is start much earlier.
Yeah.
What I'm passionate about, and you've heard me say this before, is the entrepreneurs in the software sector.
Yeah.
They provide a lot of value to the economy. They create jobs. They create innovation. Those guys need to be rewarded, and they need to be richly rewarded.
Yeah.
I want them to see
for all the riskiness.
Absolutely. But I want them to go and do it again.
Yeah.
I want them to be in a position that they've got enough money that money is no longer the driver.
It
Take the pressure.
A hobby, and then it's pure passion.
But you've got somebody who's had the pressure taken off of him, and he's got experience. And believe me, the second time around in building that business, it's a lot easier. There's nothing to beat, experience.
And what should you be thinking of when you do it? What are the things you need to take care of?
Well, I mean, we talk about unlocking greater equity value within your business, looking at your business as an asset, as an asset that you build. It provides for you, it provides for your family, but it provides for your staff. And building what we call compound assets. Which also helps to de-risk that business from the perspective of a buyer coming in, and that's what you need to be aware of. Don't start something right at the end.
Decompounding, that means, because I'm always saying I'm always talking about focus.
Yeah.
You're not saying focus, you're saying you have to broaden it up. Is that what you mean with decompounding, or what?
No, compound asset. What I mean is building in and understanding the real strengths within your organisation and building them in a way. And what I mean by a compound asset is it's got to be something of value within your business that's still there when you leave.
Yeah.
And it's surprising where that can come from. Exactly.
Like the classic trick, go on holiday for a month, see what happens.
Yeah.
Build it such a way you no longer lean it.
One of the first questions we ask potential clients when we're going through our early engagement stage, you're going to go on holiday tomorrow, you haven't announced it, for 3 months, what happens to your business? That's a telling question.
It's a painful question, actually.
Yeah.
That might be my business, but most people I know, they would be thinking like, I noticed the better manager you become, the more you realize that if you're being able to
very, very rarely do I hear the person on the other side of the table say, no, that'll be fine, I'll come back and everything will be running just as smoothly. Very rare, but it gives you the right mindset. It starts to get you focused in those areas that you need to address.
So most of our viewers are in the sales and marketing space. So what would be your advice to sales and marketing space when you're running your company? You're running a company, and you're going to sell towards sales and marketing. I mean, they're key in the valuation. I presume absolutely. You're the expert. Sure. Something special they need to do. They need to keep pushing for growth, or they need to optimize. Well,
first of all, if you can crack it on sales and marketing, you've added an enormous amount of value to that business. Yeah. Because, to be frank, there's a lot of businesses that haven't.
No, I agree.
They're struggling all the time with marketing, struggling all the time with sales. If you can crack it, and if you've got the way of demonstrating that, and if it's scalable, then you've added immediately value.
Even because I meet a lot of companies that their revenue has become really stable, sometimes in decline. Typically, those are the companies that want to think, CEO has no inspiration and he wants to sell. That would be typically customer free. I'm just thinking. Yeah. And then I would come to you, and then you probably tell me, you need to get your sales and marketing going. So, is it also a vision of the future, or are you selling the past? What are you selling? Because I can imagine when I would buy a company, I would only look at the past data. And you're trying to do something else, saying, hang on, it needs to be different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. A buyer will typically want to value the business on the past, and they all want to benefit from the future.
Yeah, of course. With a massive
yeah. I mean, what's my job? My job is to work for my client to maximize the value of that business. Yeah. And it can be a long and quite complex process, but in essence, we're looking to extract the real value from that. Mm-hmm. We're going to polish we talk about digging up the hidden diamonds within your business, and all businesses have them.
Yeah.
You can also create.
That's why you said unlocking.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can get the sales and marketing aspect of the business working really well, they become a couple of the diamonds.
What's the most critical? Is there one in particular that you focus on? If you have all the departments, I'm thinking you have classically HR, you have sales, marketing, you have finance. Is there something that you say that's right? Absolutely fundamental to get it right. I know there is a symbiosis; they all work together, but there must be one. Say, if you have to do one thing, go there.
I mean, if you look on our website, you will see our equity value accelerator wheel, and it's got 5 sections. It's difficult to say one has more value than another. You need to have as many of those strong and in place as possible. Yeah. That's not always realistic with all organisations. Yeah. And typically what I see is that a business will be created in the profile of that founder. If he's strong technically, I'm going to go into that business and I'm going to see great software, lousy sales. Yeah. I'm making some general statements here, but that's very, very frequently you see that. As businesses become larger, you would think bringing in expertise means that you get more of a rounded business. That's not always the case. Yeah. Because if still that founder, who is probably CEO in charge,
he's going to steer it.
He's going to put more money into technical development. He's going to be more excited by that, and he's not going to understand necessarily what some of the sales. You can bring a great sales manager, director, salesman into the business. He's going to need some things as well. Yeah. There's a symbiosis.
I've seen it when I go to I consult sometimes these type of companies, and then they accept it from me because I'm external, but then living it. is something completely different. The pragmatic advisors say, yeah to me, we need to do that, it's all smart, but we need to do it my way. And it just nothing changes, and you walk out and you're thinking, no, never going to work, ever going to work.
It's an issue. It's one of the things that we have to overcome. You know, intellectually they can understand it. To then, you know, they talk about it as being, well, okay, that's common sense. Yeah. It's not so common.
So in essence, you're like a sales guy internally explaining why they need to do it, because it's going to bring them more value at the end of the day.
Part of the value that we bring.
Because when I thought about M&A, it was always about very technical things like Excel sheets. These are the Excel guys. They come in, young guys, you know. Then you have a senior guy comes in, looks at it, and says, "Okay, it's going to be that. Here is the fee." But that's not how it goes.
It can do.
It can do. Oh.
There's a lot of people in the industry, and they come.
We shouldn't have invited him.
There's a lot of people within the industry, and they come from a financial background. They're accountants, essentially. They're trained accountants. And guess what an accountant wants to go and do?
The Excel sheets.
They're going to go and do the Excel sheets. And there's bankers, and they want to get involved in
the finance construction.
They do. And they want to value a business on the multiples of the hard facts that they can see within them that fits nicely into an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole value of that business. There is so much more to it.
Apart.
Yeah, it's just a small slice. But unfortunately, and this is where I think a lot of the small and medium-sized organisations really suffer, is that the mergers and acquisitions processes are managed typically by those sorts of people. Now, I'm not, and the people within Boss Equity aren't that, because they have been owners.
So that's your biggest differentiator.
So we're looking at more of a holistic approach, and we can see, and hence our relationship, we can see the value of being able to bring in really top expertise in sales, top expertise in marketing, who can come in and can make a really big effect, but without really killing the bottom line.
No.
That's we don't want that to happen with our clients.
Consultants come in and they'll actually say, okay, you need to invest more to get the
what
machine
do they
going.
want to do? They want to create a relationship where it can't be untangled, because they want to be able to get as much money as possible. We don't. We want to get that fixed as quickly as possible, a lower figure, because we've got the alignment. Yeah, we've got that alignment of that end goal. That's where we earn our money.
Perfect. So, if you had one advice, or maybe two advices to give somebody's thinking about it, what would they be?
Is to be able to get the objective advice about your business. Sometimes with owner-operator businesses, the smaller organisations, they've had their head down, they're working very hard, driven by passion, stress, going through all of those things. They haven't taken that perspective.
No.
They perhaps haven't always done the best things for themselves. For the larger organisations, I think somebody to come in and really give them some solid advice about what can happen with that business. But to be very pragmatic about it, they need honesty. They really do.
Yeah, I see that as the biggest driver.
Yeah, you don't want any of this. You don't want any of this flattery stuff that comes in, where they're coming in and giving you overestimated.
It's really tough.
It's hard. You know, it can be very, very hard work. You know that with sales, making changes in an organisation, but it can be done.
Yeah, I was a really bad manager up until the day I dared to say, "That's wrong. That's how you fix it."
Yeah.
Or that's how I think you fix it, but you need to fix it.
And that's what we do. We go in and we say that is wrong, and that can be difficult. That can be painful. And we've had potential clients walk away from us.
Yeah.
They disagree with it. I disagree with it. They can't accept it.
They would never. You couldn't work with them in essence.
You've got to be honest. One of the things that I say is people join the company is, what are the guidelines? Be 100% honest 100% of the time, and you will upset some of the people some of the time.
Yeah.
But I've also seen it where those same people have gone away, they've spoken to the people who flattered them, who will not want to push them into those areas. They realise at some stage, we've had them come back 3 years later and say, actually, you were right.
But it's too late. Too little, too late.
Yeah. Quite often.
Okay. With that bombshell, thank you, Mark, for joining the show.
Enjoyed it.
And I hope you liked it. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you want more of the content, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much.